Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive. We get a ton of listener questions about the link between wine and cancer risk.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's a topic that's, I think, often surrounded by myths and conflicting information. So we're diving into a recent study today that challenges some common assumptions.
Okay.
It also reveals, I think, some surprising insights, especially about white wine.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So to kick things off, can you tell us about this new research?
Well, this new research is from Brown University, and it was published in the journal Nutrients.
Okay, nutrients.
And it really kind of shook things up a bit in the world of wine and health.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so are we looking at a single study here, or?
Actually, it's a meta-analysis.
Okay.
So that means that the researchers analyzed data from 42 different observational studies.
Wow.
Yeah, so we're talking a huge pool of information,
Yeah.
almost 96,000 participants,
Wow.
which makes the findings even more compelling.
For those of us who maybe aren't scientists, can you just break down what observational studies are exactly?
Yeah, good question. Observational studies are those where researchers observe people in their natural environments.
Okay.
Rather than in like a controlled lab setting.
Okay, got it.
So in this case, they looked at data on people's wine consumption habits and their health outcomes over time.
Got it. So what did they find? Like, what's the main takeaway here?
Well, I think, for years, red wine has kind of enjoyed this health halo.
Right.
Because of its resveratrol content.
Right. Resveratrol.
Exactly. Resveratrol is this antioxidant that has supposed anti-inflammatory properties.
Oh, right.
But this new research actually throws some cold water on that idea.
Uh-oh.
They found no evidence that red wine actually reduces cancer risk.
Oh, wow. Interesting. So debunking a popular myth right off the bat.
Yeah.
Does that mean then that all wine is off the hook when it comes to cancer risk?
Not quite.
Oh.
Well, they didn't find an overall increase in cancer risk from any type of wine. There was one very specific finding that really stood out.
I'm going to guess this is where the white wine comes in.
Exactly.
Okay.
They found a link between white wine consumption and a higher risk of skin cancer.
Oh, wow.
Particularly among women. We're talking a 22% increased risk compared to those who drink red wine.
Wow, that's pretty significant.
Yeah.
And is this the first study to actually make this connection?
Yeah, this is the first time research has pointed to this specific link between white wine and skin cancer.
Wow.
It's definitely generating a lot of discussion in the scientific community.
I bet. I'm already kind of thinking about, all those sunny afternoons just spent sipping white wine on patios. Is that what we should be worried about?
Well, it's not that straightforward.
Uh-huh.
It's important to remember that this study shows a correlation, not necessarily causation.
Right.
It doesn't prove that drinking white wine causes skin cancer.
Right. So what are some of the other possible explanations that the researchers are exploring?
So one thought is that maybe people who drink a lot of wine, whether red or white, might also engage in other high-risk behaviors.
Okay.
Like indoor tanning or not wearing sunscreen.
Okay, but if that were the case, then wouldn't we see like a similar link with red wine too?
Yeah, and that's a good point.
Yeah.
It seems like there must be something else going on here.
Exactly. And the fact that the study found a stronger association between white wine and overall cancer risk, specifically in women, it makes it even more intriguing.
Right.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
So it seems like there's something unique about white wine and its impact on women in particular.
Yeah, that's one of the big questions this study raises for sure.
Yeah.
Hormonal differences could be a factor, for women's bodies process alcohol differently than men's.
Right.
That could influence, how certain compounds in the white wine are interacting with their cells. It's really making me rethink all those assumptions out there about what's healthy. Like, we just kind of tend to lump all wines together.
Right.
But this suggests that maybe we need to be a little more discerning.
Absolutely. And this is just one study. Imagine what we might discover with further research.
Yeah, for sure. Well, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, can we maybe just go back to the basics for a sec and remind our listeners about skin cancer risk?
Sure. Yeah. So it's important to remember that skin cancer is incredibly common.
Right.
Especially in places like the United States.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest risk factors is excessive exposure to UV radiation.
Right.
Either from the sun or from tanning beds.
So, okay, if I'm like a white wine drinker, should I just be avoiding sunshine altogether now?
Well, not necessarily. I mean, remember, this study highlights a potential correlation.
Right.
Not a direct cause and effect relationship.
Okay.
There could be other factors at play that we haven't even considered.
Right. Okay, so it's not just about sun exposure. What else could be contributing to this increased risk, especially for women who drink white wine?
Well, it's possible that, certain compounds in white wine, other than just ethanol, might interact with sunlight in a way that makes the skin more vulnerable to damage.
Interesting. So it might not be the alcohol itself, but like something else in the wine that's reacting with UV rays.
Precisely. Or it could even be a combination of factors.
Okay.
Maybe there are like genetic predispositions that make certain people more susceptible to this risk when they drink white wine. We just don't have enough data yet to say for sure.
This really feels like the tip of the iceberg. So much more to learn.
It is, and that's what makes this research so exciting.
Yeah.
It's opening up a whole new avenue of inquiry that could lead to some important discoveries about skin cancer prevention and treatment.
Yeah, I'm also still really curious about the gender difference. Like, the study mentioned this link between white wine and cancer risk was much stronger in women. So what are some theories about why that might be?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, hormonal differences could definitely play a role.
Right.
But it could also be related to lifestyle factors, like do women tend to drink white wine in different settings or quantities compared to men?
That's a great point. Maybe women are more likely to enjoy white wine, during the day or in sunny outdoor settings, which could lead to increased sun exposure.
Exactly. Social and cultural norms around drinking could be influencing these results too. It all points to the need for more research to really understand the complex interactions between alcohol, genetics, lifestyle, and environmental factors.
It sounds like there's a real opportunity for personalized medicine here. Like, what if this research could help doctors, give more specific advice to individuals about their alcohol consumption based on their genes and their lifestyle?
That's a fascinating thought. Imagine a future where we can provide these tailored recommendations to help people make the healthiest choices for their own unique situations. I mean, that's the ultimate goal, right?
Right. So while we wait for, more research, what should our listeners take away from all of this? Should we be swearing off white wine completely?
I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah.
It's important to remember that this is just one study. It adds to our understanding, but it doesn't mean we need to make these drastic changes based on just one piece of evidence.
Right.
It's always a good idea to talk to your doctor about what's right for you, considering your overall health and your risk factors.
That makes sense. As always, it's about balance and moderation, but this deep dive has definitely made me think twice about some of my own assumptions about, healthy drinks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good reminder that, scientific understanding is constantly evolving.
Right.
What we thought we knew yesterday might be completely different tomorrow.
Right.
And that's what makes this field so fascinating.
Speaking of evolving understanding, this whole conversation about white wine and skin cancer makes me wonder, what other commonly held beliefs about healthy foods or drinks might need a second look? Like, what else should we be questioning? Right.
Oh, that's a great question. It really highlights how much of what we believe about food and health is based on assumptions and trends, not always on solid evidence.
Yeah, it's like those juice cleanses that were all the rage a few years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone thought they were so detoxifying.
Right.
But they probably did more harm than good.
Exactly. Or the low-fat craze of the 90s.
Yeah.
We were replacing fat with sugar and processed carbs, which in hindsight wasn't the healthiest trade-off.
Oh, don't remind me. I practically lived on those fat-free cookies. But seriously, should we be questioning, everything we eat and drink that seems exhausting?
Not necessarily questioning everything, but staying informed and open to new information is key.
Okay.
Science is constantly refining our understanding of nutrition. What was considered healthy yesterday might be viewed differently tomorrow.
Right.
And that's a good thing.
Yeah.
It means we're learning more all the time.
So how do we strike that balance between enjoying what we eat and drink while still being mindful of, potential risks?
Well, a few key things come to mind. First, focusing on a balanced diet, rich in whole, unprocessed foods, is always a good foundation.
Makes sense. Back to basics.
Exactly. So staying informed about the latest research is definitely helpful. But don't panic over every single study.
Right.
Instead, look for patterns and consensus in the scientific community.
Right. And I imagine talking to your doctor or a registered dietitian is crucial.
Oh, absolutely.
They can provide more personalized advice based on your specific needs and risk factors.
For sure. It's about empowering yourself with knowledge and making informed decisions that align with your own health goals.
Well, I think this deep dive has certainly given us a lot to chew on. Who knew a simple glass of wine could spark such a fascinating conversation?
It just goes to show that there's always something new to learn, even about the things we think we know well. And that's the beauty of scientific inquiry.
Well said. So to wrap things up, let's raise a glass responsibly, of course, to the power of knowledge and the importance of staying curious. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and until next time, keep exploring.